Hello, my name is Elizabeth, and I'm 26 years old. I became an orphan when I was young because my parents sadly died in a car accident. Since they didn't have any family to take care of me, I was placed in an orphanage. I spent about 3 years there before I was adopted. My adoptive parents turned out to be billionaires, which changed my life completely. After that, I enjoyed a wealthy and fulfilling life. They didn't want to make my adoption a big deal, so they kept it low-key. They believed in doing good things without drawing too much attention to themselves. When I became an adult and moved into my own place, my adoptive parents decided to expand their business. They took a trip to Europe to look for new opportunities. It was during this time that I met Stephen, who is now my ex-husband. We met in college and hit it off right away. After just a few conversations, I found myself really liking him. Stephen was a cheerful and caring guy, and as we went on dates, we officially became a couple. We seemed to have the perfect relationship, but there was one major issue. Stephen's family did not like me. The first time I met them was after we graduated college. Stephen wanted to introduce me to his parents only when we were both settled in our lives, meaning we both had good jobs. He had warned me that his parents could be a bit judgmental about who their children dated, and he wanted me to make a great impression. I was nervous about meeting them. By the time Stephen introduced me to his parents, we had been dating for 4 years and were also engaged. I thought that might complicate things, since his parents didn't even know me as his girlfriend. I remember feeling anxious about it with Stephen the day before. "They're going to hate me," I told him. "They won't, I promise," Stephen reassured me. "Do you really think they won't be shocked when they find out we're engaged?" "Well, yeah, but I don't think it'll be that big of a deal." "Are you serious? You were nervous about introducing me to them because you know how judgmental they are. Do you really think telling them we're engaged won't make them judge me even more?" "Look, even if they do judge, will it really matter what they say?" "It won't matter to me, but I'm not sure about you. You always seem so careful about what they think." "I promise it won't affect me at all, Elizabeth." "All right, if you say so. But do you think we should maybe wait to tell them we're engaged, like a month later? Will that make you feel better about this whole thing?" "I'm fine with whatever you decide. I think we should keep it a secret for now, just in case. I'll do anything to win them over. You don't have to worry. I'll be with you no matter what." "Thanks, Stephen." The main reason I had been so anxious was that every time I suggested to Stephen that he tell his parents about me, he would get upset and say they wouldn't approve. I started to understand why he felt that way. Stephen's family was quite wealthy and loved to live in luxury. They wanted the same for their children and only accepted their kids, dating people who were just as rich or even richer. At that time, my life didn't match up to their standards of wealth. I hadn't told Stephen much about my family because I didn't see the point. Plus, by the time I figured out why he was so hesitant to let me meet his parents, I felt it was even less necessary for them to know who my father was. I wanted them to like me for who I am, not for my background. I foolishly believed that they could appreciate me without focusing on my money, but I was wrong. We decided to meet Stephen's parents at a fancy restaurant. As we walked in, Stephen held my hand tightly. I wore my engagement ring around my neck to keep it close without drawing attention to it, but as soon as we arrived at our table, I could see that his parents were already upset. Stephen warned me to expect that because they were strict about being on time. We had arrived exactly 2 minutes late, so we were already off to a bad start. His parents looked me up and down with disdain, and then ignored me for a while as they chatted with Stephen. I felt so small in their presence. The longer they acted like I wasn't there, the stronger my urge grew to leave. I kept my head down, trying to avoid their gaze until finally, Stephen spoke up to get their attention. "Mom, Dad, you can't just keep talking to me like this. This is my wonderful girlfriend, Elizabeth." "Oh, hello. It's a pleasure to meet both of you," I said, wishing I could honestly say the same. "Hi," his mother replied, her tone icy. "You humiliated my family in front of all their guests, and your parents humiliated me, your wife, in front of everyone. Maybe my parents were right about you. You're impossible." Stephen snapped before going to sleep in the guest bedroom. I couldn't understand why he had such a sudden change in behavior. Was it really that bad for him after I walked out? He was usually the first person to stand up for me, especially when his parents said hurtful things. For me to walk out should have shown just how awful they made me feel, yet Stephen didn't seem to care about that. Stephen didn't talk to me for the next week. I'd also received a lot of texts from his parents calling me ungrateful and an embarrassment. I tried to reach out to Stephen, but he refused to talk to me. I decided it was time to apologize to Stephen and his parents. Even that felt humiliating, but I was willing to do it because I loved Stephen, and I didn't want this to be the thing that ruined our relationship. Unfortunately, things only got worse for me after that. Stephen's parents retired and started hosting family dinners every week, and Stephen was always invited. The first time they had a dinner after our wedding, Stephen brought me along with him to their house. As soon as I stepped inside, I could feel the awkwardness in the air. Laura was busy getting ready and didn't see me right away, but Eric and Stephen's siblings glanced at me awkwardly. They didn't talk to me, and Stephen left me standing there alone while he caught up with his family. When Laura finally came downstairs, she spotted me and practically stormed over. Furious. "What are you doing here?" she demanded. "Excuse me," I replied, taken aback. "No, I will not excuse you. What are you doing in my house right now?" "Well, you invited us for dinner," I said, trying to keep my cool. "Wrong. I invited Stephen because it's a family dinner. I'm Stephen's wife, so I'm part of this family, am I not?" "Absolutely not. An orphan like you deserves no place in this family," she snapped. "What? You thought you could hide that detail from us? We do background checks on our children's spouses, and you are not in my son's league whatsoever. I will never accept you here." "Why not? Is that the only thing that determines whether I get to be part of your family? You're ugly and poor. You never fit into our elite circles. Why are you being so superficial? Are you scared I'll damage your reputation just by existing? Does the fact that I make your son happy not satisfy you? If happiness could make someone rich, then a lot of people would be billionaires. This is exactly why you'll never fit in with us. Or maybe I'll just never be as superficial as the rest of you, because I value who a person really is. You never even took the chance to know me before judging me. I'm glad I don't fit in with you." "Elizabeth, that's enough. Here's some money. Get yourself an Uber and leave." I stared at Stephen in shock as he held out the cash. He shoved it into my hands and turned back toward his mother, who smirked at me. Tears filled my eyes as I turned and walked out, feeling crushed once again. I cried the entire ride home in the Uber. I didn't understand why Stephen had changed so much. Was this his way of making it up to his parents after the party? Whatever it was, it hurt, and I was angry with him. He was okay with his parents using my past as an insult while defending them instead of me, like he usually did. I wanted to scream, but I knew that would only make me look worse and prove their judgments right, so I walked away. I tried to think if I had said anything out of line, but I truly believed I hadn't. I was just standing up for myself, and I had done it calmly. After Stephen came back home, he went back to ignoring me. My heart was breaking, and I felt so alone. I knew he expected another apology, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. After all, Laura had insulted me in the worst way, and Stephen was angry at me for standing up for myself. If anything, I thought I deserved an apology from him. For the next 2 weeks, Stephen and I didn't talk to each other. It was hard at first, but I eventually got used to it. The family dinners still happened every week, and I spent those evenings alone at home, which, to be honest, I didn't mind too much. On one of those nights, my parents video called me. "Hey, honey," they greeted. "Hey, sweetie, how's it going?" my dad asked. "Hey, Dad." "Hey, Mom. Things are not good." "What's wrong, sweetie? If you need help with anything, feel free to ask us." "I don't think this is something you guys can help me with, but thanks for offering," I replied. "Where's Stephen? Is he not helping?" my mom asked. "That's the thing. He's part of the problem." "Oh, sweetie, could you be a little clearer about what the problem is?" my dad asked. "Well, his parents are pretty wealthy and very snobby," I explained. "Oh, I hate those kinds of people," my mom said, sounding furious. "Tell me about it." "Anyway, they think I'm just some poor girl who can't live up to their standards and fit into their elite circles. They've made it their mission to humiliate me every time I meet them." "What the hell?" my mom exclaimed. "Oh yeah, and the last time I went over, Stephen's mom thought it would be funny to call me an orphan as an insult. Oh, that woman. I'm going to claw her face off. How dare she call my precious child an orphan? Do they not know about us? What the hell has Stephen been doing through all of this?" I didn't tell my parents about Stephen because I knew their opinion of me would change if they found out, and I wanted them to like me for who I was. I truly am not for my wealth, but now Stephen was siding with his parents and thought I was disrespectful for standing up for myself. "Honey, are you sure this is the man you want to be with?" my mom asked. "I love him a lot, but this isn't how I want things to be. We haven't spoken to each other in 2 weeks, and surprisingly, I'm okay with that." "All right, sweetie. I'll get you in touch with one of my friends over there. Don't worry about us not being able to help you out. I think we might actually be able to help you get a little sweet revenge." "Huh? What do you mean?" "Your dad and I are coming there next week. We wanted to take you and Stephen on vacation, but now we can do more things together without him." "Really? Oh my God, I'm so excited to finally see you both in person again." That was the boost I needed. For the first time in a while, I felt genuinely happy. We continued talking for a little while longer. My dad explained his plan to help me, and after a while he asked where these family dinners were being held. As far as I knew, Stephen's parents took turns hosting at their house and at different restaurants. Conveniently, the week my parents were coming, the dinner was scheduled at a restaurant. I needed to find out the exact location so I could give it to my parents. Thankfully, I had Stephen's email on my phone. I knew that Laura and Eric loved to send emails to everyone about everything. It wasn't hard to find out the location, and I shared it with my parents. At the same time, my mom's lawyer friend contacted me, and we began the process of filing for divorce. When my parents arrived in the States, they checked into their hotel, and I went to meet them. We had lunch together, and afterward, they set me off for a spa day, paying for everything because they thought I deserved it. While I enjoyed my spa day, they were preparing to get revenge on my in-laws. My parents walked into the restaurant where Stephen and his family were dining. According to my dad, when they approached the table, Eric and Laura started murmuring among themselves, recognizing who he was. Mom later told me how the conversation went. "Hello," my dad said. "Oh my gosh, Mr. Larry. What brings you here?" "Oh wow, I just happened to see some familiar faces and thought I could drop in and dine with you." "Familiar faces? Who are you talking about, Mr. Larry?" "Well, I see Stephen. Hello. A pleasure to meet you. Your daughter has spoken a lot about you, But speaking of my daughter, where is she?" "Your daughter? I'm afraid you're mistaken. I don't think she's here." "But she should be, right?" "I'm sorry, Mr. Larry, but we didn't even know you had a daughter." "Of course I do, and she's married to Stephen." "What? I'm sorry, but I think you're mistaken." "Yes, his wife's name is Elizabeth, and she was an orphan." "Yes, I do know that, and that's why we adopted her." "Excuse me, you're her dad?" "Yes, and from what I see, she isn't here. She's told me that she's had some problems with her in-laws, but now I see what the problem is. It's you." "No, she was the one who hid this huge detail from us. If we had known, you would have treated her better." "She didn't want you to treat her nicely because of her background." "Oh well, she asked me to hand this over to Stephen. My dad handed Stephen the divorce papers and walked out. After that, it took only a couple of phone calls for many investors to pull away from Eric's business. It was satisfying to watch them crash down to the level they had once mocked. I received numerous texts from Stephen's family calling me nasty names, while some begged me to talk to my dad and ask him what he had done. Fortunately, Stephen signed the divorce papers without any hassle. After that, my parents and I went on a long vacation together. I had the time of my life and slowly began to heal. It hurt to lose the love of my life, but I also learned how important it is to stand up for myself. I'll be forever grateful to my parents for everything they've done for me, and I can't wait to see what else life has in store for me." "What? I thought it was just speaking the truth. So, Elizabeth, I heard you and Stephen met in college. Is that right?" she continued. "Yes, we did. We happened to share some classes together." "And how did you manage to attend this college?" "From what I know, the tuition is quite high, and it's a tough place to get into." "Dad, that's enough," Stephen interrupted. "You will not speak to your father that way. He's asking a valid question. Elizabeth, please answer him." "Well, I got a full ride there. I'm really grateful because not only did I learn a lot, but I also got to meet Stephen, which has been one of the best things that's happened to me." "Of course, it's one of the best things for you," his mother sneered. "He's loaded, and you need that kind of money. At least you have some brains, because your looks aren't all that impressive, you know." "That's enough," Stephen said angrily. "We're leaving. Come on, Elizabeth." As we walked out, I was in shock at how his parents had treated me. I couldn't believe people could be so cruel, especially to someone's face. I felt too stunned to even process my emotions. The car ride home was silent because Stephen was furious. When we finally reached home, he checked to see if I was okay, but honestly, I didn't even know how to feel at that moment. I had dressed up nicely and made sure to sit properly. I didn't order anything expensive, yet somehow, without me saying a word, Laura and Eric had made their judgments about me. After that awful dinner, Stephen didn't talk to his parents for a while. They sent him a text saying that we had been very disrespectful for walking out on them during lunch. Stephen didn't respond right away and only texted them about a month later to tell them that he had gotten engaged. His parents were not happy about the news, but Stephen warned them that he wouldn't contact them again if they said anything bad about me. Stephen's parents offered to pay for our wedding, but only if they could make all the decisions. Neither of us wanted that, so we decided to do the next best thing: elope. My adoptive parents were in Europe, but they knew about our plan to elope. They were just happy that I was happy, and they even sent Stephen and me a gift. Stephen raised his eyebrows when they sent us a pretty expensive painting, but I brushed it off, thinking they just had the money to spend on it. After we got married, we met Laura and Eric at a party they hosted to celebrate their anniversary. To be honest, I was somewhat happy they invited me, even though they didn't seem to like me much. But when we arrived, I was ignored by everyone. If you think being ignored by two people is embarrassing, Try being ignored by about 30. I stayed close to Stephen, but no one made an effort to talk to me. Whenever I tried to join a conversation, people would look me up and down and walk away, or they would keep talking to Stephen as if I hadn't even spoken. By the end of the night, I was in tears. I felt humiliated and disgusted by how everyone was treating me. Towards the end of the evening, the crowd asked Laura and Eric to give a speech. I was tired and wanted to go home, but during their speech, they started talking about how grateful they were to have everyone in the room in their lives. That was just the first jab they threw at me. They kept making more jokes that made the guests laugh. At some point, I couldn't take it anymore and got up to leave. I ordered an Uber and went home, crying the whole way. When Stephen finally got home, he seemed upset and angry. "Why did you walk out like that? Do you know how embarrassing that was for me?" he asked. "What are you talking about? Don't play dumb with me right now," I replied, feeling hurt. "Elizabeth, I had to endure my parents yelling at me while a lot of the guests pitied me for being with you. Are you serious? What about how embarrassing it was for me?" I shot back. "Oh, come on, Elizabeth. You could have dealt with it for one night. It was my parents' anniversary, for God's sake. I was ignored by everyone, and your parents chose to make fun of me during their toast. How can you expect me to be okay with that? I'm not saying what they did was right, but you could have just gotten through it. I would have spoken to them about it after. What would that have done for me? I don't like being put in situations where I'm humiliated. Everyone was laughing at me. You've never been in that position before, so it's easy for you to talk about it like it's nothing. My parents expect an apology from you," he demanded. "I want one too," I replied, feeling defiant. "I'm afraid I won't be doing that. I'll only apologize if they apologize to me first. I see no reason to apologize to you. You always stood up for me. I don't see why this is any different. This is very different."